if they were smart about it, they could change with everything, you know, but instead they're just resisting it and they're just going to be dead.
About a year and a half ago, someone told me about you. I went home and downloaded an MP3, and then I went out and I bought the album.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's so cool.
Yeah, because
well, actually, the funny thing about me is, a friend of mine told me to buy this album, and I bought it. A year later, Mac's like, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Just take a little bit of verse. Yeah.
Well.
How you doing?
So what else does this include?
Hey, good timing, Bill.
Yeah. Well, I've played in years.
Yeah, but I don't think he's played in a long time.
It's your turn, isn't it?
How come I'm not hearing that wonderful POE music? It's like, I don't hear anything. I thought you could rockin'.
Oh, she made us turn it off when her postcard came on.
Is that what? Okay. Honey, better now.
We're going to take the tour of the POE tour bus with Cody from POE's band,
I wanted to say, you go, girlfriend.
Sarah and Peggy, and Sean.
I thought it was
We're on the bus.
Dad. Good for you. Long training? Whoa.
I'm just not scared of it, that's all.
I'm taking this.
Hi, I'm Valerie, nice to meet you.
Great. This is amazing. This is amazing. I won't take any pictures.
Cool.
I don't care.
Is that right? Because I don't want to be intrusive. Okay.
You got it whipped around in pretty good shape.
I'm going to be intrusive.
Good job. They love you.
You get the tour.
Thanks for telling me.
Wow.
Oh wait, I'm missing the tour.
Okay. This is a little nicer than our van with the shag carpet on the walls. Can't see this, but these are bunks. These are very nice.
This is wonderful. So this is like your little, like rap session place?
Just, yeah, wherever we decide to sit down, I guess.
And you get some TV and music here?
Yeah, it's great.
Do you kind of work here too? Like does POE work here? Or?
We can. We just haven't had the time.
So what are you playing?
The turntables.
Okay.
Scratching, making crazy noises.
Excellent.
Yeah.
This is too awesome.
Yeah.
I just admire Val. Is up there? Val?
Valerie, yeah.
Is she something else to drive this rig?
Incredible. She does it for a living. She's been doing it for 3 years.
Good for her.
She loves it.
And that's the key, loving your job.
Yeah, definitely.
You like the bus, Sean?
I dig the bus.
So this is like the little...
Very nice.
Very, very nice.
I could,
It's cool.
we could live here comfortably.
POE slept here.
coat. That needs you too.
Thank you very much for letting us see your
I'm
bus.
sorry, it's very dirty.
That's no problem.
Because we just drove
Salt Lake
600
City.
miles? 500 miles.
That's a sucky drive, isn't
And
it?
we got in and we were all exhausted and we didn't clean the bus, so we're sorry. It's usually clean, but you caught us at a bad time.
It's alright. It's all the people. And Sean. Are you excited to see POE, Sean? How about you? Sweet. There's Waldo.
Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo? He's arranging everything. There he goes.
And
I'm sure he's now going to stop the radio interview because they couldn't quit talking on the radio.
You don't have to do that.
No, it's like infrared. Some stupid bullshit.
Here, film something, tape something really dark.
This is cool. I like this.
Like your secrets. Over there like that.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I love you. I'm so scared. It's out there. It's coming for me. See? You can like do it all yourself. Like, hey, that looks pretty good. Mel, you gotta say hi now. I looked at your camera.
Hi. Thanks for coming over today.
Thanks for having
It's
us.
great having everyone over.
I'm excited
Welcome, thank you for coming out to Borders. I'm Steve Moore, one of the managers here, and in the 4 years I've been here, this has to be the most exciting event we've had, so I'm a huge fan of both of these great artists. They are the son and daughter of Danielewski, who was a famous award-winning documentary filmmaker in the 60s. The daughter decided to go into music, the son decided to go into literature with equally brilliant results. POE came out with their first CD 5 years ago. It's called Hello. You probably remember this. Several hits respond from this. Hello, Drive By, Trigger Happy Jack. Yeah, Angry Johnny. After that, she did some soundtrack work and all that, and now she just recorded a new album called Haunted. And we've been playing it in the store. It's a brilliant album, very eclectic, like the first one. Everything from soft guitar ballads to almost orchestral rock and everything between. Smart lyrics, you'll love it. If you like the first album, you'll love this one. The brother went into literature, as I said. He kind of burst on the scene last April. Mark C. Danielewski published this big monster of a book called House of Leaves. I happen to be a reviewer part-time, and I review for the Washington Post. And I still remember last December that I got a call. I'm their kind of experimental fiction guy, the avant-garde books they don't know what to do with. And they said, have we got a book for you? This thing is 700 pages long. It's got 8 typefaces. It's got text running off the sides. It's got poems. It's got appendices. It's got an index. It's the craziest thing we've ever seen. I said, bring it on. And it turned out to be a fantastic novel. I mean, especially as a first novel. You'd have to go back to Pynchon's V or Gaddis's Recognition for a debut of this, with this major. In fact, this had a real buzz, even internationally. Last March, I was in France for a literary conference. And even there, before the book had come out, people were asking about this. I had a Belgian postmodern critic coming up to me and say, what is this American novel, House of Leaves? I mean, they'd already heard about it then. So that's the kind of bombshell this had on us. I gave a great review in the Washington Post, and every review I've seen since then has been really great. So this is a major work. One of the selections from this book has just been published separately as the Whalestone Letters. This is an appendix from the back, some praised letters from the narrator's mother, and just been published separately with a few other books, so a few other letters. So if you haven't, if you don't feel quite up to taking on the 700-page book, you might try this. Okay. What we're doing, we have plenty of these on sale. POE's album, unfortunately, doesn't go on sale until next Tuesday, but to entice you to get it here rather than at one of our hated rivals, we are giving away little samplers, which are kind of a mixed media version of what you're hearing tonight. Some of the POE's songs along with readings from House of Leaves. Okay? The two works kind of feed off of each other, and if they have anything in common, if there's a common moral, it's probably this line here from the Whalestone Letters. Never fear your fear. Please give it up for POE and Danielewski.
Beautiful visuals, Walter.
Hello.
Wow, so good that you guys are all here tonight. Amazing. This is a great opportunity for us to be able to come sort of pre-tour with the full band and do a more intimate kind of a setting and explain a little bit about how these two things relate to each other and how they reflect a history that we shared as very close friends and siblings growing up. This is Mark, that's Cody Peyote, by the way, our DJ. Give it up. He's also a member of the full band and will be coming back with us, hopefully in the new year. And to begin with, I'd love to tell you a little bit of the story behind this album because it has a bit of a story. To start, I will introduce you to the ghost that haunts it, along with some others, which is the voice of my father.
I've been everywhere, I've known a great many people, I know some languages.
That's the voice of my father. And he passed away in 1993, And years later, after I got off the road from the first album, I felt still very unsettled with my feelings towards his death and towards him as a father. So one night I went to the storage facility that my brother and I had rented to store the remains of what belonged to him, and I hunted through boxes and didn't really find anything helpful until I got to the very bottom of this sort of closet space and found a little tray that had 8 cassettes in it, and they were all labeled in his handwriting and dated, and I had a feeling it was going to be his voice on these tapes. So I took them home, put them on the coffee table, and proceeded to stay as far away from them as I could for about 2 months because I was scared to hear them. And then one night I finally got my guts up and I put one of the tapes in the boombox and I pressed play.
You see how paradoxical life can be.
See? And there he was, alive again. So what ensued after that was that I began listening to these tapes very, very, very carefully because I started to learn things about him. Partly because I had a bit of perspective and I wasn't listening to him only as a daughter, but also as just a human being. And ultimately, I threw him into my computer and began to twist his words. No, just kidding. But chop up these waveforms on the screen that represented the last of what remained of his voice. And started to construct almost like a conversation with him that I wasn't able to finish when he was alive. And the songs on the record are really a direct result of that conversation, which is also included in segues on the album. So to give you a little idea of how that narrative works, at the very beginning of the record, or very close to the beginning of the record, he asks the question, "What is it, Annie?" Which was my name.
What is it, Annie?
Did you hear that? Okay, but one more time. He's turning
What
with this.
is it, Annie?
Anyway, he's saying, "What is it, Annie?" when I'm about 2 years old, before I was Poe, and I'm crying about something in the background, and hearing that tone of his voice, which was so sweet and so tender, really blew me away and disarmed me. And initially, it actually kind of made me angry, because it was a lot easier to remember the negative things that about his voice and the way that it remained with me, because then I didn't miss him so much. So when I heard that, I sort of documented that feeling of resistance in a song called Control. Hold up one second though. Because I have to put this thing on my ear.
This is the technical aspect of the performance. You're watching my little sister.
I work for the CIA part-time, so I have to put this little thing in my ear, just in case I need it. This is called an ear monitor, which makes sure that you can hear what's going on. This is called Control. We're doing this karaoke post-rap. Don't you mess with a dream, 'cause you're liable to grow up surprise you to find that I'm nothing. Give up that you find in the tears. I thought I could crawl on the wall like a tiny mosquito and tremble in fear. But I am a queen, understand? And I got your thoughts and your visions and castles all inside the palm of my hand. Why you acting the other way? Why you have your eyes closed? Why you acting your lips closed all within? inside my ear. All those things you taught me to fear. I got them in my blood and now you're not welcome here. Come a little bit closer. Let me look at you. I can't remember all the doubt is true. The kind of mind I thought not every saint is a fool.
Don't you mess with a little girl's dreams. I think my whole life I watched people constantly mess with her dreams. And now as a big brother, I'm going to tell you a couple of those stories. We had a very strange upbringing. We were born in New York City, but we moved around a great deal. We lived abroad. And it was a very sort of rags to riches, back down to rags again story. And we ended up in Utah, which I think would have been a wonderful experience if we'd been Mormon, but we weren't. So it was somewhat peculiar. And we got there, and my sister had been sort of touched by the first blush of rock and roll, and she got this denim jacket because denim was big in Utah then, and she proceeded to write down all the names of her favorite bands on this jacket, and she wrote down the Doors and Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and Mingus, and of course the Sex Pistols. And this was terribly, terribly exciting, and she was so thrilled to be able to share this new garment with the student population. And so she put it on, and she went down to the bus stop, and the bus pulled up, and the bus driver opened the door, and he saw the denim jacket with Sex Pistols on it, and he refused to let her on the bus. And he said, and I quote, "You are a plague on the minds of youth," which, coming down on a 12-year-old, is pretty heavy stuff. But my sister marched on, and she continued to make her way through Provo High School. And one of the things they did there was they did these, they sort of dedicate a week to a theme. I don't know if that happens here, but homecoming week, a certain music is played. And they had Back in Black week. Everyone had to wear black, and they play Hell's Bells over the, So she got together with some friends and decided they put on John Lennon week. It was kind of a nice idea, they'd play some, it's nice. Play some stuff over the intercom, and out on the marquee, it said John Lennon week. Well, by Tuesday or Wednesday, the school office had been flooded with phone calls from concerned citizens and parents about why a public school was vouching for a known drug user and dealer and a communist. So the week was canceled. It was just, it was an incredible environment to live in. And my sister just continued to do her thing and pursue her music and her own words. I think one of the questions that I've often been asked is how I managed to sustain my faith. The answer. And I thought a great deal about it, actually. And a visitor. So anyway, I'll carry on here. Anyway, that was our intermission. But I thought a great deal about that question, and I recall that probably the most significant moment happened in 1991 when I was living in New York, and I found out that my father was dying of cancer. And I had very little money at the time, but enough to buy a Greyhound bus ticket. So I went down to the station, and I bought my ticket. I climbed aboard this bus with a pad of paper and a pen. And luckily the bus driver let me on. I was hiding my Sex Pistols envelope. And I proceeded to write this crazy story that took me 3 days and 2 nights. I never slept, and it was just right out of the gut, all about my dad. And when I reached Los Angeles, my sister had come from another direction and arrived, and together we went home, and we took care of my father, and he recovered for a little while. His cancer went into remission, and it was during that time that I presented him with this manuscript called Redwood as a gift.
That is a total and absolute waste.
Which was exactly his response. He shredded me, and my response was to tear the document to pieces. I tore it into 100 pieces, and I took it out into this back alley and just threw it away, and I went into a coma. And a few days later, my sister and I had a meal, and we were just trying to reassemble these emotional fragments and trying to get a perspective of what it really means to be dying and what it means to be a parent. And at the end of this meal, my sister handed me this envelope. And I looked inside, and she had taped the whole manuscript back together. And I realized just how courageous and how ferocious she really was. And she wasn't going to let anyone mess with her dreams. And she wasn't going to let anyone mess with my dreams.
Very sweet story, but I have to admit one thing right off the bat, which is that I had an agenda of my own because, you see, for many years I've been stealing from my brother's manuscripts. And I looked at these shredded... It's true. But, I looked at these shredded pieces in a dumpster and I thought, my God, there's a title of a great song in there. So I took it and I pasted it back together. And on a more serious level, one of the things that my brother's writing has always provided for me, and even just his friendship, was a witness. Because that's the wonderful thing about siblings in particular, I think, and also great friends, is that they provide another perspective to your past. They were there. My brother was there when, we were toddlers traveling from one country to the next with no real home base because we traveled a lot as kids. He was there when my parents got divorced. He was there when my dad died. And there are so many ways in which we can rewrite our own history, and it's nice to have somebody that can, put you in check from time to time. And his writing has always really provided that, because he'll look at something, and even if he's fictionalized something, the basic ideas behind what he's saying have always been, kernels of truth that have always spoken to me and enlightened my own understanding. So an example of how this sort of feeds both the book and the CD is, there was a time when I was making this record And I was listening to these samples of my dad, and I felt completely at a loss as to where to begin, because I felt I had so many things to say. I had so many feelings, but at the same time, I had no idea where the hell I was, what I should be doing, or how to say any of that. And my brother one night at 2 a.m. dropped off a manuscript, which he often did during the process of his writing, entitled The 5.5 Minute Hallway. And it described a scene in which a family walks into their home and finds a hallway that is 75 feet in the middle of their living room. And it wasn't there before. And the house is like maybe 20 by 20 feet, so you would think you would see it on the lawn, but it's not there either. So, you know, I found that image to be so unbelievably compelling, because I certainly have felt in moments, you know, standing right next to someone 1 trillion miles away and unable to reach them, or them being unable to reach me. And the title itself, 5.5 Minute Hallway, was so beautiful. So I immediately sat down and I wrote this song called 5.5 Minute Hallway, which I'm going to sing for you karaoke style. I live at the end of a 5.5 minute hallway, but as far as I can see, you are still miles from me in your doorway. And oh, by the way, when the landlord came today, he measured everything. I knew he'd get it wrong, but I just played along, 'cause I was hoping that would fix it all. But there's only so far I can go when you're living in a hallway that keeps growing. I said to myself, 5 more minutes and I'll be there inside the door. But there's more to this story than I let on. There are words made of letters, unwritten, and yes, I forgive you for leaving it on. You can think of it like this, when you can't resist, but then you're always standing on a cliff. And just when I think I find the trick, I'm back in that way. 'Cause there's only so far I can go when you're living in a hallway that keeps growing. I said to myself, 30 seconds and I'll be
Communication is not just words. Communication is architecture. Because of course it is quite obvious that a house which would be built without the sense, without that desire for communication, would not look the way your house looks today.
As I was writing House of Leads, I became obsessed with the notion of what a house is, what a home is, on a philosophical level, on a personal level, on an architectural level. And I was always, you know, I was scurrying off to the libraries and listening to lectures and conversations at coffee shops, bars, whatever, you know, trying to determine what that meant and just, you know, exploring that sort of vast idea. And I remember when my sister brought this sample of my father speaking, which Cody actually played at the very end. Can you play it again?
Communication is not just words. Communication is architecture. Because of course it is quite obvious that a house which would be built without the sense, without that desire for communication, would not look the way your house looks today.
Now, this was a speech that was delivered at Brigham Young University in front of a whole bunch of people, and I had actually been there. I must have been 8 or 9 or 10, I can't remember. But and I remember listening to this thing and realizing like that might have been the very source of this idea that began to obsess me many, many years later. And so much of the book is concerned with the paternal voice, as is so much of the CD, and how we wrestle with it. But there's also a very important maternal voice, which is equally pervasive and equally powerful, and also a part of the CD. But when I was working on that mother's voice, I wasn't getting it. I couldn't, there was something missing there. I could grasp sort of the intellectual concept of it, but there was an emotional part that was absent. And it was at this time that my sister was working on a song called Spanish Doll. And in order to write it, she had to excavate a certain part of our history when we were very, very young, living in Spain, while my father was making a documentary film. And one of the strange ironies is that my father spoke a great deal of languages, but he didn't speak a word of Spanish. My mother, however, was fluent. And what my sister began to do was resuscitate these phrases that my mother had used. And they were beautiful. They were these wonderful, nurturing, caring words, sustaining words, if you will. And that for me was the key. And I robbed her blind and ended up incorporating a great deal of that mythology, architecture into the book. As well as these letters. And I'm going to read a couple of these letters now, which appear at the back of House of Leaves or in the Whalestill letters. July 24th, 1985. Dear Johnny, where are you? Almost 2 months have passed since your visit, and I'm possessed by an eerie presentiment that all is not well. Was it your leaving that seemed to offer up a discordant note? The way you turned your back on your mother and only looked back twice? Not that twice shouldn't have been more than enough. After all, once was too much for Orpheus, but your looking seemed to signal in my heart some message of mortal wrong. Si nunca te fueras. Am I being silly? Is your mother having a fit over nothing? Tell me, and I will shut. All I require is the assurance of a letter in your exquisite hand, or at the very least a postcard. Tell your mother, my dear, dear child, that she's just being a silly girl. What bliss to have had you in my company. I hope my tears did not disturb you. I was just not prepared to find you so beautiful, like your father. No, not like. More beautiful than your father. It made no sense to hear how the terrible marine man could beat you like an animal and call you a beast. Such flawless features, such dazzling eyes, so sharp with the snap of intelligence, yet so warm and alive with the sap of life. Like the wise old you seem to me, even though you are still so remarkably young. Some people reflect light, some deflect it. You, by some miracle, seem to collect it. Even after we went inside and left the blunt sun to the lawn, the shadows of the rec room could do nothing to dull your shimmer. And to think this almost supernatural quality in my only boy was the least of his wonders. Your voice and words still sing within me like some ancient hymn which can on its own live forever. Among the glades and arbors of old mountains, black forests, the waves of dead seas, places still untouched by progress. In the tradition of all that existed long before the invention of the modem or the convenience store, your tale-telling stilled wind and bird as if nature herself had ordered it, knowing you carried a preserving magic worthy of us all. Donnie had instances like that, when he spoke of flying, his only real love. He too could still the world. You, however, seem to manage it for everything. It's a rare and stupendous gift, and yet you've absolutely no idea you have it. You've listened to tyrants and lost faith in your qualities. What's worse, the only one to tell you otherwise is a mad woman locked up in a loony bin. Dear me, that is a mess. Perhaps your new school will set you straight. Hopefully some good teachers there will offer you the nurturing you still require. Perhaps even your mother's condition will improve enough so you can begin to take her seriously. Ah, Johnny, I could write you like this for days. Your appearance made me so happy. Please write and tell me your visit did not spoil your feelings for me. Your mother loves you like the old seafarers love the stars. November 9, 1985. Dearest beautiful boy of mine, your syllables alone call and keep me to the side of time's grand bar, as if such two sounds really could say join me, and I could. Where do you belong? How do you participate? Do you dream of Spain and wrap your designs in shades of red? No new news from you. No matter. I read you now as I write you upon the instant, upon the word and its thought, as if they two truly might and could be one, mine and yours, the each preceding the other. It is the only joining I can contemplate these days. By the way, I know you're not in Spain, or for that matter, Red. It was just a thought, a dream. Mine, really. Maybe my way of telling myself what I really want. Spain, sangria, hot bricks of clay baking in a gaudy day, windows cracked, door open, air flood with music, scent of baking bread, and the wild flutter of mating birds. I've been dreaming a lot. Not all of them, however, are so sweet. These at least I can shape. I am awake. The ones I fear, though, I fear because they have come to shape me. Búscame, cuídame, recuérdame.
This place feels so unfamiliar, yet I know it well. I think I used to belong here, but the only way I can tell is that I miss you still. And I cannot find you here. You left me tattered and torn, just like that sweet Spanish star. Sweet Spanish, sweet Spanish. I went down to the alleyway, Sierra Bonita, found that you were gone. Left no word, no message. I still don't know exactly what went wrong. Now no matter where I go, I always Yeah, my turn. Yeah, so, okay. So we were getting to the mother, the idea of the mother, and when I went back and started thinking about the years that we spent in Spain when I was very small, the thing that was the craziest was that I remembered moments of such happiness, very simple things, being, 3 years old, going to a flea market with my mother and just remembering the feeling of her hand and looking at all these wild colors and feeling totally safe. And again, they were difficult things to remember, which brought me to recall also the not so happy moments. And our mother left when I was 16, and it definitely had an enormous influence on both of us and probably inspired bits of why there's an absentee mother in my brother's book. And on my album, I recreated some of the things I used to do to my mother after she left, and one of them was I left these messages on her machine consistently, and I would sing these little songs to her, telling her about what was going on with me. And some of them were funny, and some of them were sad, and some of them were whiny, and some of them were about actually fairly important events in a young girl's life. For instance, losing one's virginity. So I'll sing you the message that I left her that night, which goes like this. I was like, "It happened fast, not like I thought it would be. It didn't take very long for him to make a criminal of me. Mom, I'm not a virgin anymore." Right? So.
I can't believe that.
So, but in any case, so there are other messages on the album too, like the message that I called and telling my mom that my father had died. And as I, got more into these memories, some of them made me angrier and angrier. And again, when I started to read what my brother was doing with the mother character in his book, I had an amazing revelation, because the amazing thing about these letters, the Whalestow letters, is that they come from a mother who is in an institution, who's separated from her son, and yet her love for the son remains so unbelievably powerful and so completely intact that it made me sort of rethink a few things and start edging towards an understanding of how important intentions are. I mean, we all say that, actions speak louder than words, and that may be true, but I think a lot of times an intention is almost more important. If someone is intentionally wants to be cruel to you, that's terrible. If somebody loves you with all their heart and doesn't necessarily do everything that they're supposed to, that doesn't necessarily demean the feeling or make it less valuable. So there are a couple letters in my brother's book that are so powerful in terms of what a mother's love can offer that I would like him to read them.
December 23rd, 1988. This, by the way, comes towards the very end of these letters. My darling Johnny, it's late, too late. Still by the little light I have left, I write. You seem to come to me when I do, like a vision written in sound. That's when the all of you spans the not of you and suddenly glimmers within your mother's old and faltering ears like a prayer. Here is the way I breathe, the way I rest. Only when I come to the measures of your losses, so plainly figured for all to see, in the links between your words, those I've heard and those I've read, only then do I lose sight of my calm. How, I ask myself now, can I ever deliver you to a better peace and ease? I delivered you once at birth. It ruins me to think I might not succeed in doing it twice. Unless such deliverance comes not by delivering you from me, but me from you. I don't know. My plans are a monstrous muck, my efforts unclear. All I've ever wanted was to see you through it all, to a better place, a brighter chance, to cradle your future far from all my horror. Surely I have failed. I know little else to say, little else to do. I have nothing, I am nothing. Only love for you makes that not true. December 24th, 1988. Never fear your fear. I am close. Don't forget. I am here. In losing your vision, enlighten your own undertakings. In leaving our vision, enlighten your own understandings. Always. I think you get this way of mine, do you? I hope so. But if you don't, it's no matter. For I shall be just the same, standing by, like some old, still-growing tree, her rustle lost in fall, but found again come spring. And of course you can lean on me. You can hide in me too, high above. And when you are tired and wish to close your eyes, you can rest in me. I will not go. Remember, I shall be your roots, and I will be your shade, though the sun burns my leaves. I shall quench your thirst, and I will feed you fruit, though time takes my seed. And when you are lost and can tell nothing of this earth, I will give you hope. And my voice you will always hear, and my heart you will always share. For I will shelter you, and I will comfort you. And even when I'm nothing left, not even in death, I will remember you.
Towards the end of the album, I repeated the sample of my father asking, "What is it, Annie?" And through the process of making the record, really, I arrived at a very different sort of answer than I did at the beginning of the record when I started. So,
what is it, Danny? What is it, Danny?
I miss you. And in the last song on the album, I was able to pull from these tapes all these really wonderfully kind things that he said. And things like, "I miss you, I'm proud of you." And they were things that I seldom heard growing up. And again, I had the realization that he only had to say them once. And I could have them forever. So I do now. So I'm going to sing you that last song. It's called "If You Were Here." If you were here, I know that you would truly be amazed at what's become of what you made. If you were here, you would know how I treasured every day, how I listened to what you spoke. Echo
reflection.
Inside me with the best parts of you. Now that I'm here,
I am so proud of everything you do there. Love you most.
I hope somewhere you hear them too.
Next time I see you, you proudly sing it back to me.
Now that I'm here, I love you.
It's okay, you can go now.
Lest anyone be misled by a certain quotient of melancholy in this evening's festivities, it's important to point out that in the book and the CD, there's also a good deal of sex, drugs, rock and roll. So we're going to try to end on a slightly higher note.
Mark's gonna read a little Johnny Truett.
Curie suggested we go for a drive in her new two-door BMW coupe. In the parking lot, we slipped into her bucket seats. Curie took over from there. At nearly 90 miles per hour, she zipped us up to that windy edge known to some as Mulholland, a sinuous road running the ridge of the Santa Monica Mountains, where she then proceeded to pump her vehicle in and out of turns, sometimes dropping down to 50 miles per hour, only to immediately gun it back up to 90 again. Fast, slow, fast, fast, slow. Sometimes a wide turn, sometimes a quick one. She preferred the tighter ones, the sharp, controlled jerk, swinging left to right before driving back to the right, only so she could do it all over again until after enough speed and enough wind and more distance than I'd been prepared to expect, taking me to parts of the city I never think of and rarely visit, I heard her say,
Hey pretty, don't you wanna take a ride with me through my world? Hey pretty, don't you wanna take it inside through my world?
I can't remember the inane things I started babbling about then. I know it didn't really matter. She wasn't listening. She just yanked up on the emergency brake, dropped her seat back, and told me to lie on top of her. On top of those leather pants of hers, her hands immediately guiding mine over those soft, slightly oily folds, positioning my fingers on the shiny metal tab, small and round like a tear, then murmuring a murmur so inaudible that even though I could feel her lips tremble against my ear, she seemed far, far away. Pinch it, she said, which I did lightly until she also said pull it, which I also did, gently parting the teeth one at a time, down under and beneath, the longest unzipping of my life.
Hey pretty, don't you wanna take a ride with me through my world? Hey pretty, don't you wanna look and slide through my world? Hey pretty, my pretty baby, ride through my world. Hey pretty,
We never even kissed or looked into each other's eyes. Our lips just trespassed on those inner labyrinths hidden deep within our ears, filled them with the private music of wicked words. Hers in many languages, mine in the off color of my only tongue. Too bad dark languages rarely survive.
Hey pretty, my pretty baby, don't you wanna take a ride with me? Don't you wanna take a ride with me? My baby, don't you wanna take a ride with me? My pretty baby, don't you wanna ride with me? That's it for us.
That's all, folks.
Thank you so much. I believe we're doing questions and answers too. So if there are any questions,
that goes to the machine.
That original
Bad.
manuscript she rescued from the dumpster, did that find its way into the novel?
Only as one reference, actually. The material is still, it's still alive somewhere, but it wasn't part of House of Leaves. Believe it or not, there was a great deal that was cut out of that book.
You're right.
Any other questions? Yes.
Good question. I think she's amazing. And on my website, I have a link to her site, which just is pictures of that she's done of other things. Her name's Cleo Sullivan. I think she's unbelievable. She lives in New York, and if you want to see more, the link is at p-o-e.com. And I'll take you right there. Any more? Yeah?
Do you keep in touch with your mother?
I do very much so now, and actually, the question was, do I stay in touch with my mother? And it was a pretty phenomenal moment of reconnecting with her with this record, because I actually called her and said, look, this is what I'm doing on this record, and I've stolen your answering machine message, and I've recreated these messages, and how do you feel about that? Because it doesn't necessarily make you look like, the best person in the whole world. And she's like, I think it's wonderful because it's true. And at that point, I really felt as though what had been broken really had healed, because not only had I forgiven her, she forgave herself. And I have a wonderful friendship with her now. We're able to talk about those things and not freak out.
Mark, I was wondering who you would say some of your influences have been, and if you're reading anyone who's writing now, you think is particularly interesting.
Question was, who are my influences, and am I reading anyone now of great interest? Well, one of my great influences is sitting next to me. And I mean that seriously. I mean, I have always listened very carefully to her music, and I listen to a great deal of music. And I think it's sort of important to recognize. I think in the ivory towers, professors are very obsessed with cataloged works of literature, which are very important, but I think they're somewhat deaf to the fact that there is a very significant oral tradition which is being played on the radio and expressing a great deal of important sentiment, thoughts, and ideas. That said, I'm a traditionalist in some sense. I've read a great deal of Homer and Virgil and the old classics, as well as postmodern American literature, Pynchon, Heller, DeLillo, lots of poetry, Bishop, Plath, Pound, Eliot, etc. And current reads, I've been reading a bit of Amy Bender, and I find her a very interesting author. She's very new to me, and I finished reading Seamus Heaney's Beowulf. That's pretty old. So that's kind of a quick answer on a long question.
Questions? Yes? Well, actually, Cameron is off doing solo stuff. The question was, am I going to bring the old band out on tour? And basically, that band, with the exception of really Cameron and Darius, the guitar player, weren't that interested in writing. And I had made the first record on my own and then hired them to go on tour. So we got off tour, we sort of split up because they really wanted to go out and play. So they went off and did other things. So the only one who really remains from that band is a guy named Darius Atkins, who was the guitar player. And he is amazing, and he's an amazing writer and co-wrote some things with me on the record. The new band is kicking and has the endorsement of the old band. They're just doing different things. So hopefully you like them just as much. Cameron will be missed, though. Electric cello really rules, and it's so rare.
Question? The question is there no...
Wait, let me answer this.
No. Is there no sibling rivalry? Oh, there's tons, but not really now. I think that's important. It required a great deal of work and discussion and whatnot to hammer out, a significant sibling relationship. But it's worth it. I think that's the...
I have a totally different answer. No,
Disregard everything she's saying.
No, I actually think, I mean, it's a very good question about sibling rivalry because I think that you can make sibling rivalry work for you. Because I think we've constantly challenged each other, but, you know, if he were not to challenge me, like do things that are so amazing in my mind that I want to keep up with him, then it would be kind of useless. Like, that's what makes the inspiration, but underneath that is an understanding that whatever's good for him is good for me. You know, whatever's good for me is good for him. Nobody's trying to, you know, one up anybody. It's just, we're challenging each other, you know?
She's right.
Wow. Can you say that again?
No.
In the back? The question is, do I have any videos? Yes, and I believe that you can download them now on the p-o-e.com website on the multimedia page.
Launch.com.
Or launch.com. Cool, I didn't know that.
Anyone else want to chime in with the .com?
Yeah, any other, yeah, exactly. Links. Any more questions? Yes?
Do either of you play chess?
The question is, do we play chess? I actually play a little, and actually just wiped out a woman today who's attempting to spar with me on the chessboard, and
she looked a lot like her.
Actually, she's really quite good at the game.
Yeah.
You should try Go out, by the way. Go's great. If anyone plays Go out there.
It's a really cool game.
Very cool.
If you like chess. Any more? Yes?
I had a friend that thought that your new album was like reflected a tremendous amount of growth from your first one. What was some of the influences that really plugged in for you on this album compared to the first one?
The question was, he said he has a friend who thought that this album versus the first one had shown a tremendous amount of growth, and what were the influences that allowed this album to evolve differently from the first. And I think the number one thing that I could do on this album that I couldn't do on the first one was isolate myself and have all the resources that I needed. And it's been a dream of mine for so long to be able to be completely independent in a studio and have my own little world to go make noise in. And I was able to do that. I built my own studio, and I had my little computer and a Pro Tools rig. And what that enabled me to do is spend hours by myself, you know, listening to these samples, thinking about them, you know, chopping up, editing performances, pitching them differently, reworking grooves, doing all the vocals without anybody else around, you know? And that was heaven. You know, I think it's such artistic freedom to be able to do that. Because once you put anybody else in the room, it's a kind of psychic noise, and I really wanted to hear what was going on in my own head and in my heart. And so I think that was the primary difference. I think that may be it.
Cool.
Okay, we're going to set up our guests in the corner to sign anything you have. We have
Cool.
flats.
What was your last question? Then we'll go.
Okay. You did today. What movie was that on?
Oh, that song Today?
Yeah.
Great Expectations.
Oh, I can't remember. We were talking about it. So I just walked down.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, we'll be over there.